All right. Welcome, everyone. Ged. And welcome back, Rich. I think you've been on my channel, right? Not just Ged's. Have you been on this?
Yeah, I think once
Yeah,
before. Yeah.
Mando.
Hey, you were on an Mando, yeah, or Andor.
Yeah, I think it was a Mando.
I think it might have been Mando.
Mando. So the finale tonight, boys.
Yep.
Yeah. You know what? Not a lot of answers tonight, I feel. Not a lot of answers in tonight's episode.
It's funny, we finished it and Rich has said, I don't know if I'm bummed that I didn't get all the closure I wanted, or I'm realistic knowing that it left me in the cliffhanger I was gonna get. I'm like, yeah.
Now, well, I think there's been some mystery in the air of whether or not there's a season 2, or they're just going to roll into the movie, or if the Mando season is going to kind of take over. And I think it's pretty clear there's going to be a season 2.
Yeah.
Well, when this started, like when the Ahsoka series started, I thought, oh shit, like they're going to have one season of it. There's going to be a story. It's going to roll into the movie. Like there's not a lot you can really do. Was I extremely wrong? Like I genuinely feel like you can run 2 to 3 seasons of this at this point.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it later on, but Dave's definitely leaning into a particular storyline and is about to build that out. We'll talk about that when we get to Baylan. But let's start at the beginning. So this episode directed by Rick Famuyiwa. Is that how you pronounce his name? Mandalorian veteran, Book of Boba Fett veteran. He's directed a lot of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian, so it's nice to see him in the director's chair. And I thought you could tell this episode. Swole Yoda. Where do we start? I started with
there he is. You're back, Swole Yoda.
Not a lot of answers, but so we could kind of go chronologically here. We start with Morgan Elsbeth getting full Night Sister empowered.
Gets knighted.
Yeah.
And gets the sword of Talzin.
So that has to be in regards to Mother Talzin. I was trying to think back to the Clone Wars.
Rich said, is she now Mother Talzin?
Did Talzin ever use an actual sword in the Clone Wars? Could someone add that to the comments? I know she's kind of used like a green, like magic weapon. I don't know if it was actually a physical sword. Maybe that's an animation to live action kind of thing. But it was nice to pull in Mother Talzin there. What do you guys think?
Yeah. It was. I thought it was very cool. I loved the whole ceremony. It definitely didn't go the way I thought it would afterwards, which we'll obviously talk about in a bit. But I thought it was very cool. And the odd part was how shocked she looked. Like,
it's almost like she was, I don't know. Did you find she was almost kind of nervous to accept the gift, but felt like I absolutely have to accept this gift?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You didn't strike me until you just brought it up, but she looked almost reluctant.
Yeah, I think that some of that might have been she kind of processed what that would probably entail.
Yeah. So unlike you, I kind of figured where her end was going to go after she got powered up, and I'm like, she's going to be the main stopping power this episode, and she'll be the fodder, so to speak. Then we pick up with Ezra, and he has finally constructed a lightsaber. So I guess he doesn't just need the Force anymore.
Doesn't just need hopes and dreams.
Yeah. So I like that little banter with Yang there, and he's like, "Get out of my way! Like I know what I'm doing." And he's like, "I've been instructed." So I thought that was good.
And his eyes light up as soon as you mention Kanan. Yeah. Like you can just see, like he's fully engaged. Yeah. He's basically goes from "get the fuck away from me" to "I'm in."
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a full Kanan replica, but he had the Kanan emitter on top. So it definitely a nice homage to Kanan. It's quite fitting. And when I turned to Kelsey, I'm like, he's had a blue, he's had a green. What color do you think this is? I'm like, it's got to be blue if it's going to be a Kanan saber. So sure enough, he's rocking the blue again. Definitely thought all that stuff was cool. Like again, we were asking for that the last 2 episodes. Like, give us Ezra the saber, and there's a reason why he didn't take his green one back, because they planned on him making his own. Which is nice. And it was nice to see Hu Yang get to, not that he really got to help, but like create a saber for, you know, someone he hasn't done it for, right? Like he never ever had Ezra as a Padawan, basically when he grew up. So,
and I like, and you just touched on it. Like I like the closure of, because I'm sure we were part of many people that kind of eye rolled when he showed up and he's like, no, keep the saber. You've modified it. Like, I'll be honest, that was kind of a frustrating episode for both of us, Tyler. I remember when we reviewed it, so it was nice to see them close that loop off for a reason.
Yeah. So good to see Ezra in action. So basically we get our heroes sprinting towards Thrawn to try to stop him. And this is where we spend the majority of the episode. We got some pretty cool moments. I really enjoyed the bombardment scene. It was very reminiscent to Rebels season 3 finale, where they're bombarding the little dome shield on the little planet they were hit at Chopper base, right? Very reminiscent of that visually, which I thought was cool. But there's a point where I was like, it feels like they're never going to get hit. Like, I know there's plot armor there, but like, I felt like for like the 20th second of riding through that, when they're all reaching out with the Force trying to open the door, I was like, it kind of lost a little bit of its tension for me, but visually really cool scene. A total Thrawn move to be ready for that. And then we get into some cool stuff.
Hold on. I have a bit of a gripe as we're kind of, before we jump into this, and this is obviously, I'm sure, going to be a topic in a few minutes. You know, Sabine Wren went from not being able to shift a mug
I know
to being able to ride one of the howlers or whatever they're called and contribute. And like, from an Audible standpoint, she was contributing to that. Like, it's a bit of a stretch.
Well, I have that written down as I know that's a point, because we'll talk about what she does later in the episode, which is definitely going to be a point of contention for everyone who hates Rey. Let's be honest.
Yeah, fair.
Those people aren't going to be happy with that scene.
Yeah.
So we get the troopers who volunteered to stay behind and protect for the Empire. And there was there some dialogue of, do they know what this means or whatever? But basically, they sacrificed themselves, and now we finally get our zombie troopers. It's pretty cruel when, like, the cracking of the limbs as they start to get up and the eyes light up.
It was great.
So that army of the undead chasing them was kind of cool. And like, I loved how Ahsoka turns to Ezra, just like, have they done this before? No.
No, this is new.
So we get like a nice tense, like, zombie army chasing them. And then we get the face off with Morgan Elsbeth. Ahsoka, you know, in the Star Wars way, says, I got this, and sends the other two up. So now we get a pretty cool fight. A rematch, right, between Ahsoka and Morgan. That Blade of Talzin handled itself pretty good for a while. And then it looked like it was going to be in trouble for Ahsoka, because the rest of the zombies caught up there, and she was in trouble.
She lost a saber. She lost her short one.
Yes. And then cutting to Ezra and Sabine, they get up there and they fight. So this was an interesting thing. So we get two Death Troopers, which the Death Troopers have been one of
zombie Death Troopers.
Yeah, they've been one of the best new trooper designs, period. But so where we could confidently say they were zombies, because that half mask was cut off, and it was like, it didn't look, there was no human under there. It didn't look like.
No. It was definitely zombie.
Yeah. No green eyes, but it's got to be some sort of reanimated corpse, right?
Yeah. There was no gray area there.
Yeah. So they proved to be quite the force, as they just two of them took on Ezra and Sabine. And now this is where I think some people are going to have gripes, and is where you brought it up. Ezra's kind of getting handled in this situation, and it's Sabine who, you know, her newfound force powers is the one who overpowers and saves, which there's a part of me when she was like trying to reach for her saber and it wiggled, and then when she finally pulled it, I thought for a second it was just going to like go like a foot off the ground and fall. and kind of like one of those Star Wars funny moments where then Ezra was going to come in and save the day. But no, she full on force pulled that thing in and finished off our zombies. And then her and Ezra.
I struggle with that one. What? I would have been totally cool with it if at the beginning of the series she had gotten good with the Force, but was like wild with it, because they allude to the fact that Ahsoka ran away because of how dangerous she could have become,
the anger she could have
if she unloaded it. Yeah. So to me, that says, Ahsoka maybe was almost feeding her that she wasn't as powerful with the Force. So I get what they were trying to do there, but to go from not being able to wiggle a coffee cup and in 4 days you're able to
she couldn't even make it tremble or anything.
Yeah, and then what happens next that you'll talk about? I'm like, you need to take a log off the fire here.
Now, I will say, throughout the rest of the series, like, we've seen her deliberately trying to sit there at a table, move a coffee mug. But then there was also that scene in the forest where she actually got a little bit of a push on Shin's head. So it seems like almost in the moment when she relies on it, it almost isn't trying. It's just
panic,
life and death. This needs to happen. There almost is a little bit more of a connection there.
Yeah.
And so that for me kind of made that scene a little bit more believable, but it is still a bit of a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like this will forever be compared to, Rey's journey. And they do establish that Ahsoka has been not only teaching her throughout, right? There's been a few lessons, but she's taught her in the past. There's active lessons. There's been training, right? She just really hasn't showed any aptitude whatsoever.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so that's the next step.
Nathan, that's where we're going next. When she's like, I got this, I would be like, the fuck you do? There's no way I'm jumping off this thing.
I think even Ezra was like,
he was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. And so that was the next extreme.
No, you don't. You couldn't pick up a coffee cup 4 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that take. If it was just the lightsaber pull, I could have been okay because it kind of lead it up to that. Yeah. But then the whole pushing Ezra, not only that, but he kind of fell. It was just it was.
Yeah.
And for Ezra to trust her, never seeing her use the Force, because Ezra was nowhere close to making it.
Yeah. It was. There's other ways they could have played that out, knowing that. The ship's available, knowing that it's been fixed. I mean, I don't know if I agree with how that played out.
Yeah, I really wish they would have just kept her as has had training, has the smallest little bit of Force sensitivity that could heighten her abilities and senses and stuff like that, and kept it there. But they're going, she's fully unleashed, essentially.
And even going the other way, I'm okay if they explore the story of Ahsoka saw how strong she actually was with the Force, got scared, ran away, and there's that potential of volatility, right? Because there'd be a lot of similarities there with Anakin. So again, I'd be totally fine if they told Sabine Wren that she was not that strong with the Force, when really she could be an absolute menace. If they want to explore that, I'm totally down with it. But you can't go from nothing to chucking your buddy 150 feet through open air up into a Star Destroyer. You got to pick one or the other. And if they had taken time in the previous episode, where there was this aha moment where she learns that she is volatile, powerful.
In that fight, she could have maybe used the Force.
Yeah. If Ahsoka came and said, look, I was wrong. I ran. You actually have a shit ton of power. Yeah. I just was scared of how you might use it. I would have been totally down with that. But just not good.
It felt almost like just fan service for the sake of fan service, with the callback to Kanan and Ezra doing that constantly during Rebels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah. Good call.
Yeah, so Ezra obviously dresses in the trooper's armor. He gets to go home, and then we finish with Sabine comes back to protect her master or help her master, and Ahsoka finishes off Morgan Elsbeth. So Morgan's our sacrificial cow this season.
Good fight.
Good fight. I like the way they did it. But then again, like I alluded to, the bombardment where there felt like no one could get hit. When they're running off the platform as Thrawn bombards it there, like there's literally a wall of stormtroopers shooting it. It's just that there was never any fear they were going to get shot in the back, I feel. Again, plot armor, I get it, but why even have them shoot sometimes?
Even just cut the scene short. Like, don't play it for 25 seconds. Give me 5 seconds of okay, cool. They're not going to
jump off the edge.
Let's move on. Yep.
So Thrawn immediately returns. He's heading to Dathomir, and that's where he's obviously taking the Great Mothers. And then they shoot out to the hangar bay or the cargo hold with all the crates. What do they got? Wild guesses?
I went with corpses of dead soldiers for a massive undead army. They look like they could have been boxes.
What if it's all like basically dead Night Sisters, though? You know what I mean?
That was my guess.
Oh, that
was going to be my guess.
Essentially, they're just going to repopulate that planet full of witches and make that their new stronghold. They're the right shape.
Yeah,
I think,
they're
right?
definitely coffins.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Let us know in the chat if you guys got any other theories, but that's kind of what I was saying. And that's why they're so important, right? Like it's almost like these three great mothers. Well, Ezra even alluded to it. He said Thrawn woke up the mothers. Right? He said that. So I wonder if Thrawn found all those things down there and he just opened up a random 3 and there were 3 Night Sisters in there. And now he's, he said, hey, I could get you guys off this planet.
Yeah.
If you guys help me. Yeah, dead Night Sisters. And you know what? They might not even be dead. Like they could just be like asleep, slumbering. We don't know how that dark magic stuff works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Although
that would make sense as to why they're so loyal, and because you and I were trying to figure out the hierarchy the other week, right?
Yeah, and clearly Thrawn's the boss at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I saw a clip with Sam Witwer the other day, and he was talking about Mother Talzin, and he proposed at the end. He's like, "Well, whoever said Mother Talzin was even alive to begin with, so like, we don't really know much about the whole dark magic stuff they use." But yeah, so I think we're pretty safe to say that's what's happening there. Ezra steals Morgan's shuttle, or was that Baylan's shuttle, and lands on Home 1. He gets his nice homecoming. I thought it was all great. I love that Chopper was the one who's like, hey, this guy's not a threat, goes over. But like, could Hera run and come give her like stepson a hug? Like,
yeah.
It was almost like when people would complain in The Force Awakens when Chewie gets off, Han just died, and Leia just runs past him to hug Rey. I mean? I feel like your son who's been missing for over a decade, and I keep calling him son, but I feel like he was like an orphan they picked up.
Oh God, yeah.
And she's just there like slack-jawed. Ezra,
is it you?
Is that you?
Yeah.
Grow some facial hair.
Yeah.
Zombie Gungans. Can you imagine?
Oh no! Imagine that. Did you see the neat nod at the end? Rich picked up on it at the end with Ahsoka.
Well, so next I want to touch on. Well, we'll quickly touch on Shin.
Okay.
We figured she was going
Shin, Baylan, and then the ending piece of the Ahsoka still.
Yeah, and like so, Shin we thought was going back with the Thrawn to go live with that new power, but she doesn't. She goes to the Raiders, that Raider camp. So that was
a shock.
I don't know. It keeps her around in the new galaxy, so I guess she's going to be a part to play with whatever is going on with Baylan. Being in Ahsoka. And then we get the big shot, and like this is the big cliffhanger to me. And where Dave is going to be taking this series. So we get the shot of Baylan. He's standing on the outreached hand of the father who's pointing to the distance. You can see the statue of the son beside him.
Yeah.
And another statue with its head knocked off, which we could assume is the daughter.
Yeah.
And he's pointing far in the distance, and you see like a mountain or a structure, and there's like light and stuff coming up off it, flashing. We talked about it a little bit last stream on how, a lot of people theorize Abeloth, the mother,
that's right,
is going to be that power that's calling to Baylan, and I think that all but pretty much guarantees that's what's happening.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the name, the Abeloth, but yeah, that's I mean, that's, and it's such an incredible story to explore, right?
Yeah, and they're setting up more of the ones, right? The Mortis gods, whatever you want to call them. If they're setting up more of that, that's why this series just can't wrap up with the movie. Like, there's just he's opened up Pandora's box of just way too many plot lines.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I think there's for sure going to be season 2, because they have to
sort out what's going on in the new galaxy before everyone gets back together, right?
And that's too large of a plot line to explore in an hour-and-a-half movie or a 2-hour movie.
Way big. Because that whole movie has to be all about Thrawn, right? Like, you got to do Thrawn justice. And in this series so far, he's just kind of been on a bridge, giving a couple orders. Like, that's kind of it. It's like, we need more development with him. But like now, like, I don't know where they're going to go with this, right? Like, Baylan's seeking power. Like, they need to get back to the other galaxy. Like, is all this stuff going to mix together? And then we tie in.
Hold on one sec before we jump to that, because you're probably going to the end scene. And if anyone who watches this or is watching now, can you have a quick peek at this? Did Thrawn not seem hesitant when he found out that Morgan Elsbeth had fallen? He looked like it's the first time that he's delivered that, like, well, it was necessary, or that's the price of war. Like, he always has those lines. It's the first time he seemed hesitant and reluctant, almost like there was, it sounds weird to say an attachment, but like when he speaks and says, that was a possibility, like, he literally like half stutters. And it could just be a kind of a random one-off, but everything else he's delivered a line of, like, sometimes you have to lose a little, or that was a necessary sacrifice.
The two TIE fighters were necessary. Yeah.
He legitimately pauses for a moment, like almost like, shit. Anyway,
I don't know if I picked up on that. I figured when he asked her to stay behind, he was more or less assuming she was going to have to sacrifice herself.
Yeah, that's fair. It was just weird because it was a different delivery than anything else he's done in the entire series. I was like, huh.
But you could argue Morgan's been his closest ally, right? Like, she's the one who's come and saved him. So
100%.
So there might have been a little bit of feel there. In the books, Thrawn actually respects his crew and their welfare. That's why they're so loyal to him. Yeah.
Oh, it's fair.
I can see that.
All right, good call. All right, so now you got to wrap up. Sorry, I just want to touch on that before you went.
Yeah. So now then we end with Sabine and Ahsoka staring at some sun rays coming through the clouds, and Sabine's looking all weird. And for a second, I thought she was sensing what Baylan's been sensing.
Yeah.
Ahsoka's like, what is it? And then she's just like, oh, I don't know. But then Ahsoka goes, and you could see Ahsoka smile and be happy, and she could feel the presence of her master. Why do you think Anakin's watching over her?
Well, hold on. The owl was before Anakin.
But yes, the owl was there. Morley, or whatever its name is, was also there.
Morai, who basically followed Ahsoka around as the daughter, right?
Yep.
The statue with the head missing in the previous scene.
Yes.
It's just such a good time. Yeah.
So we get that, and then we get Anakin, and Anakin is supposed to be the balance. He's in the world between worlds. Is he like, I don't know, is he like watching over that no one gets close to Abeloth, like trying to keep that balance?
Well, with the death of that, remember you and I have talked about this, especially when he was walking around the world between worlds. And I said, he could be the visual representation now of the living force.
Yeah.
Because now that the Mortis gods are gone, like he is he was the prophecy, right? Like he is literally the living force now. That's my only thought.
Well, with now they've tied in Anakin with the World Between Worlds. They've tied him in now with the Force Ghost watching. Dave obviously has a plan, something significant for Anakin to be doing here. Especially if they unlock something like Abloth, they're going to need some powerful beings. Anakin could be that key.
Yeah,
could be that key to play.
Yeah, it's fair.
Any other things you guys notice?
No, I mean the one thing that jumped out at me was that weird pause in Thrawn when it came to Morgan Elsbeth. But yeah, there was obviously a connection there, and it's interesting to see him even have just that brief little bit of humanity.
Yeah.
But I loved Thrawn in this. Like that is just awesome Thrawn for me, that entire episode.
I noticed it was like 2 or 3 times this episode he was like "Long live the Empire" or whatever. And like, I get it. He has the Imperial Remnant. He's trying to form up, but like, it seems a little odd because I've read the old canon Thrawn books. I haven't read the new ones, but I know he's all about the Chiss, and his own people and stuff like that. So it's still, I find it interesting. He's so locked on being, returning the Empire, even though like the Emperor's dead, Vader's dead, all this stuff. So it's just, I think I want to know more about his motivations, because I know in the books he's not just a blind military leader, right? Like there's a lot going on. And I hope they don't kind of one note him as just a random Imperial leader who's just a good strategist, right? Like I'd like to know what again, they need our season to develop that, like what his
vision is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what his plan is.
Does he know though what has happened, what has transpired while he's been gone?
I'm assuming the Great Mothers have told him, right? Like he must know what's happened.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I would guess. So Yoda, the wedding was excellent.
The wedding was great. I bailed early.
It was so good that Ged kissed another man on the mouth.
Yes, it is true. Tyler and his lovely bride did not want people to clink the glasses to kiss. So I thought that I would be a smart ass and make the announcement that if there's any clinking of the glasses, the only people that are going to be kissing are myself and that person. Well, Corbin, who jumps on here the odd time and watches, who is Tyler's official new brother-in-law, clanked the glasses. So I went up and I gave Corbin a big kiss on the mouth. 100 people lost their mind. It was pretty funny.
And do you know what Corbin thought about that kiss?
Yeah, it was awesome.
Right on cue.
It was.
I took that out of context, but
it was definitely one of the it was definitely the most fun of a moment I've had at a wedding in a long time. It was so well played out. It was so well done. It was not scripted. But no one clinked the glass after, which part of me is a little insulted.
Well, they got scared because you followed through on your threat.
Hey, you do the things you say you're gonna do, right? But no, it was a great time. The venue was amazing. The venue for that wedding was fantastic. My wife and I had a great time. A lot of people there had a really good time, and we left before it got out of hand because we're old.
I got out of hand at the end.
Did you?
I was told no shots, and by the time the bar wrapped up, I was approaching double digits. So,
what time do you guys get back?
No, they shut us all down at 12.
Oh,
at 12, yeah. Because you could only pay for like 8 hours of bar service or something like that. So since we started at 3,
yeah,
lots of drinking. All right, let's give this episode a rating. You guys are up first. What do you got?
I am gonna go. I'm gonna go 8, 9.
Solid.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 8, 9. Not because there's anything wrong with it, Rich. I don't know if you remember, but we rate like grossly hard.
Yeah.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with the episode. The cliffhanger was good. The episode was good, but nothing grossly out of what I thought was going to happen happened. So that's the only reason that for me it doesn't like shoot up into the upper echelon. So I'm an 8-9. Rich?
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is out of 10.
Correct.
If it was out of 15, I'd be like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd probably go like I'd go like just under an 8, like a 7.8. There was
all right.
The very end, like the last few scenes really kind of got me jazzed for a follow-up season. But the rest of it was kind of almost a little predictable as to what was going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. Nothing really blew your mind until some of the ending
it wasn't
pieces.
The weakest episode for me, but it also wasn't the strongest for me.
It's tough grade, but your points are absolutely valid. Tyler?
Yeah, so the Star Wars series so far have been known for their finales, right? Like Mando season 2, amazing. The Book of Boba Fett, the last episode was probably its best one, other than the one Mando crossover.
Yep.
Andor's finale with the Marv eulogy was awesome,
phenomenal. Yeah.
They typically knock these out of the park. The Kenobi, out of all the Kenobi episodes, the finale was the one, right? In that regard, I was expecting a lot. I was, hoping for a little bit more reveals. I feel like we got like basically zero reveals.
Nothing you didn't see coming.
Yeah. So, I think I'm like I was going to say 8-8, but Corbin says 8-8. So I'm going to be a little bit different. I'm going to go actually 8-7.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there was just a couple of spots where I thought they lost attention because it was just incompetent Empire. The Sabine full force power was a little much. Like I'm fine with it if they work towards it, but it was a quick acceleration.
The Ezra finally wielding a lightsaber was not a disappointment, though.
No,
he was fantastic.
But with all those cliffhangers and no reveals, obviously you're pretty fired up for what's next.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Can't wait for next season.
Yeah, for sure.
They really have laid the groundwork for some very interesting directions. Right now, you have Ezra with the Rebel fleet preparing for whatever Thrawn's going to do. You have whatever's going on in Dathomir. They haven't brought the cloning aspect in, but I think a lot of people still maybe expect that a little bit because they've built that up in the Bad Batch, and that was a big part of the original Heir to the Empire novels. And then we got this whole brand new galaxy and what's going on with Ahsoka, Baylan, and Abeloth, if that's what it truly is. So they got a lot of very, very interesting storylines to play with. So
it could be interesting how they decide to do it, because they could choose to keep the Ahsoka season 2 in the second galaxy and then almost do the next Mandalorian season
and in the other guy.
Because we've introduced a lot of these characters in the Mandalorian, and so we could almost have, especially with Gideon and everything and the Shadow Council, we could get it all in on that side of things.
Gideon the Fourth.
He might have been cloned again. The mustache gate. And lost my train of thought. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. We still, like, between now and Force Awakens, right? We got all these characters in this storyline. Where did they go when the Force Awakens happens, right? So, having them conveniently lost to another galaxy could wrap up those storylines kind of neatly, but then it kind of defeats a big Thrawn movie if like Ahsoka's not even there to battle Thrawn. So don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they find a home in the galaxy and they go back, defeat Thrawn, and they're like, you know what? We want to maybe go back over there. But there is that Dave has kept these characters alive for so long. He found out how they can survive the original trilogy by jumping Ezra, right? And then having everyone else kind of join the rebellion and fighting. But they got to figure out what they're going to do with all of them coming up shortly here. So could be some tears for a few people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was good, man.
Yeah. So that'll wrap it up for us. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Let us know if you think it is Abeloth, what's in the Night Sister crates, and what you thought of the Ahsoka season, especially this finale. And what's the next series? I think they all got delayed, right? Because of the strike.
I have no idea what's next.
I think Skeleton Crew was supposed to be next. I think it was. Hope it's not Abeloth. Yeah, Abeloth's interesting just because with how powerful she could potentially be.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
My heart breaks that the actor who plays Baylan Skoll has now passed. I mean,
oh, that's another thing. So he survives the season.
Yeah, but he has passed away, and he was Baylan Skoll.
He was so good.
Baylan Skoll was a great character. He was portrayed. Ray Stevens portrayed him, I would think, perfectly. You liked him as a villain. You respected the fact that he respected Ahsoka. He never identified himself as a Sith, just someone who survived after Order 66. Like, there's so much about him that I loved. And I mean, obviously, and my heart breaks that he's no longer with us in real life. And I mean, yeah.
Do they, it's always a touchy thing, but do they recast?
You'd have to, I would think.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I don't know if you could just write that role off, right? Like, he's the driving force right now towards that power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done before, right? Like, I was a huge Spartacus fan, and when Andy Whitworth, who played Spartacus originally, got cancer and had to quit shooting, and then Liam McIntyre came in, it's like visually, right? And it takes you like an episode or two, but then I thought
Dumbledore,
the new actor, Dumbledore,
same thing, right? Dumbledore, the first time they switch it over, you're like, what the fuck? But then by the second or third movie, like, you get it. It made sense.
Yeah,
like, kind of had to happen.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's going to be that hanging over it, but I think they'll recast and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Get a beefy guy with a beard.
Yeah, there's a couple out there.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll do it for us. I don't know when we'll be live streaming next, just because I don't know when the next Star Wars property is out, but maybe we'll do some sort of wrap-up stream next week or in 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm into that.
All right. Cool. Peace out, everyone.